Here he is, he's back again, Wayne Carey. Welcome to the Backpage Lead Vidcast, not the podcast.
Yeah, thanks Charlie, good to be here.
We are now on the big screen. Now listen, two great games from the weekend, St Kilda Geelong and the one yesterday, Sydney Carlton, decided by less than a kick, but the one on Friday night, there was a bit of controversy attached to it. What did you make of the free kick? Like, was it, if that was round one and it was early in the game down at Skilled Stadium, would that free kick have been paid?
Look, I've had this discussion with a few people over the weekend. I think, and what is great about our game is that was a 50-50 ball. It's the grey area of our game. I think if it had been play on, I think you'd have, obviously half people still saying that it should have been a free kick, and the fact that it wasn't paid, the other half are saying that it should have been. It's a really grey area. It's one of the ones where players are caught with the ball. It was a good tackle, and they throw themselves forward. So there is an element of in the back. So, like I said, there are plenty of those not paid, and there are plenty that are paid during a game. The fact that it came down to, the last minute of the game is why we're talking about it. But I don't see a problem with it either way, to be honest. The fact that it was paid, fair enough. If it wasn't paid, I'd probably say fair enough as well.
The Moonster, did it have something to do with the identity of the bloke doing the pushing or not? If it was Gary Ablett, might the umpy have been subconsciously...
As harsh as this is going to sound, sometimes it can be. If it's a Barry Hall or a Mooney or one of those guys, they tend to be quick on the whistle rather than a player that hasn't been in as much trouble as far as the tribunal and umpires, and maybe back chatting a little bit as well. But look, like I said, the Geelong supporters obviously disappointed. If it had gone the other way and play on, you would have had St Kilda supporters disappointed. So it was a 50-50 decision, I thought. So the umpire's neither right or wrong.
Okay, that sounds like you're on the fence.
Well, I think that's the exact sort of that's the decision it was. I mean, if it had been paid either way. So yes, I'm on the fence.
Should the umpires take into account the context of a game? Like, should they put the whistle away late in the final, or should they treat it the same as they would treat a round two game?
That's exactly. Well, you would hope that they treat everything the same, whether it be a decision at the start of the game. Towards the end of the game. The one thing that we notice with finals footy is, especially when the game's so close like that, you notice the umpire tends to let it go a little bit more. They actually don't want to make a decision sometimes, unless they really have to. And you see the ball spilling around in the wet conditions, players were diving on it, the tackling, everything was, paramount because of the importance and also late. You would hope that they should umpire like that the whole game. And really let it go, but unfortunately they don't, and the human nature of us all takes over. And look, they're being watched by 70,000-80,000 people. They're under pressure, and like I said, I don't think the umpire was in the wrong on this occasion. I think if he had said play on, I think that would have been okay. Was a free kick there? Technically, yes, it was in the back. So I think the umpire did a pretty good job.
And the same question arises with a wet game and a dry game. Do you umpire the game the same way in a wet slog like it became late in that game?
Well, once again, there's these grey areas in our game. On a dry day, the player has to pretty much hold the mark the whole time. And on a wet day, they tend to pay marks when you don't hold it for as long. So, there are different aspects with umpiring, whether it be wet or dry.
Do you, having spent a few years away from the game now, and you used to be quite harsh, I think, on the umpies when you were playing, and
fair enough too.
Do you have any appreciation of them now that you've stepped away from the game and you watch the game as an outsider?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think you mature a little bit too, Charlie. But yeah, look, they've got a tough job. There's no doubt about that, and I think that the way the game's umpired now is probably as good as ever. The same as the skills and the courage of players now has probably been better than ever. So I think the umpires have improved accordingly, and they're doing a pretty good job.
Just while we're on that last question on that first final, what were your overriding impressions of that game? Were the Saints back in town?
Yeah, look, I think the Saints just prove that they're a great defensive unit. They're a great team defensive unit, and what impressed me about that was here is a side. They're playing a side that can score very quickly, and we know their ability. But what they did against the Bulldogs there a few weeks ago was just incredible. The game against Collingwood, they were able to get themselves back into it while they're not playing so well. I mean, in the third quarter, they got themselves back into the game, kicked 5 straight in the third quarter, couldn't kick a goal in the last. this is a side that's got that ability, yet St Kilda was able to hold them to that goal lead for about 8 minutes of that last quarter. So it tells you what a defensive unit they are and how well they played. The fact that they could hold them to that, even though Geelong did kick inaccurately.
Okay. We'll talk about the upcoming finals in a minute, but let's talk about Saturday night's game, Bullies and Collingwood. Bullies seem to have lost a fair bit of their mojo, haven't they? And criticism of the captain, Brad Johnson, this week. I mean, if you were Rodney Eade, A, what do you do about Brad Johnson? And B, how does he get the team to regain that zip and spark that took them to so many good wins during the season?
Well, you might say they've lost their mojo. I think the simple fact is they've lost some of their very good players to injury. They've limped into the finals. They're not 100% fit. They'll make a good account of themselves on the weekend. Don't worry about that. I mean, I think I think they go into the game favourite. I think they're $1.90 at the moment, and the Swans are $1.80. So that. I think it's the other way. But anyway, yeah. I think they're favourites anyway. As far as Brad Johnson's concerned, look, he's still in their best 22, no doubt about that. I know he's obviously carrying an injury. He will be, I'm sure, injected. He'll have cortisone injections to get himself up for this week. May very well be his last game. They may have another game or two left in him, but I would dare say he'll be playing. But he'll need a little bit of help to get up, because he does look injured to me, but he's still in their best 22. For all those people potting Brad Johnson, he has been a superstar. He deserves to play this week, and he will. And and I'm sure he'll do everything in his power to play. And look, it's all legal to have some cortisone, and I'm sure that's what he'll be having during the week and on the weekend.
Does Rodney Eade stick with the side he picked on the weekend, or does he shake things up a bit?
Well, look, it depends on who's available. If they got some senior players, I'm not sure of exactly who's available. It's a bit early in the week to know, but I think they did the best they could on the weekend against a very good side, undermanned. Griffin was sensational, limping around too. He was just unbelievable. So, there's not too much they can do. I mean, we're waiting on Barry Hall. Big bad Bazza maybe in a little bit of trouble, but by the way, I don't think there's too much in it. But look, they'll still take some toppling. Sydney will have to be at their best here in Melbourne to get over the Bulldogs. I still think there's a little bit of bark left in the Dogs. Maybe they've got enough in them to fight another day.
There you go. You heard it here first. Harry O'Brien was goading Barry Hall and probably deserved a bit of a whack, didn't he?
Well, he's that's what's going to happen to Barry, as we know, and we've said it all year, that players are going to try to get under his skin. It was the first final. It was always going to be on the cards. Really didn't need to do it, because neither player didn't need to get stuck into Barry. Barry probably didn't need to do what he did. But like I said, I don't think there's too much in it. I honestly don't. So I think we'll be seeing Barry play this week, no doubt.
There you go.